I'm speaking with Denise Mira, speaker, veteran homeschool mom of 5, and author of the book, No Ordinary Child, Unlocking the Leader Within Your Child. And she's also the founder of Rent to Riches, a program that teaches parents how to rent out furnished spaces to quickly create 6 figures in passive rental income. Denise is passionate about empowering parents to raise extraordinary children who she calls our leaders of tomorrow. Welcome, Denise.
Thank you, Kelly. Great to be here.
So fun. So one of the challenges I've had as being an entrepreneur and a mom, right, is just kind of figuring out that whole balance thing. I feel like, there were some parts of me that felt a little guilty that I was kind of keeping something away from my children because I was so busy with my work. So I'd love for you to just kind of talk about what it means to be an entrepreneur and a mom at the same time.
Wow. Well, I've always been an entrepreneur, and I think that so many of you watching would so identify with that little thing in your heart beating since day one. I mean, I can remember when I was 8 years old selling cucumbers on the side of the street for my grandma, and I was crocheting ponchos and selling them at school. And so that thread that's in your heart is there, and you can't deny that. And then I poured all those efforts into leading a church with my husband. And that's just the same as entrepreneurialism, except you're not getting monetization, but you are building something meaningful and wonderful, and it's creating value. And so honestly, Kelly, I think the best way to do this is to include your children. I think that I want to caution women to not look over the heads of their kids and always be on their phone and always be doing and always, putting them in front of the screen. And I think that we really have to strike that balance. As much as I know we're like, show us what balance means, right? It's kind of funny. What is balance? But in your heart of hearts, you know it by looking at the behavior of your children, the peace in your home. If that's all out of sorts, then you got to push the pause button and reevaluate. But overall, I mean, I was bouncing babies on my knee, writing the book that I wrote, creating sermons that I preached, creating women's ministry outlines, creating actually dabbling my toe in renting spaces in my home. So my kids were always with me. They helped me clean. They helped me change the sheets. They helped me sweep the floors at church when we got there before everybody else, start the coffee. So I think be inclusive, because mom, you are the curriculum for your children. The book of Luke, and I don't know if you're a Bible reader, but it's an awesome book, talks about that the student shall be like his teacher. So kids don't always listen, but they're always watching. And so my children now, my 5 sons, adults and we homeschooled, so thankful we found that piece. I didn't even know what that meant in those days, but they were with me night and day, and they were my team, and they can be your team. They can do everything from making copies to making coffee to, so, and Kelly, I bet you do the same. Wherever I was, they'd be at my feet doing their schoolwork, or their schoolwork was my work. And so I think that that's really the key, is not losing your children along the way, dropping them off all the time. I think that this is a culture where mamas have not been trained. I wasn't trained to nurture and nurse and educate. I was trained to drop the kid off at that door and the next door and the next door and the next door. It starts at 12 weeks. And then it just goes. And then mom is at the end. I don't care if you're making 7 figures. If you lose your kids along the way, you're not a happy lady. And I don't think that that's real success. I think success is that we bring our children with us. So that's just always been my heartbeat. And I was not raised to be a mama. I was raised to be a career girl. I didn't want kids. I didn't want marriage. God changed my heart dramatically. And in that package began to be this little thing in my heart that I wanted babies. And when I had babies, I was ignorant. I was young and single and stupid. I didn't know what to do with them except love them. And then there came the time when it was time to educate them. And I find that the most important education I ever did was, as I said, women, the curriculum of my lifestyle. And so just make sure you remember you are the model, and your children are watching, and take them with you on this journey of entrepreneurialism.
I love that. Take them with you on the journey, and I think that's something that a lot of moms struggle with, because they don't look at it that way. They look at it as like, okay, I'm a mom over here, and then I'm a business owner over here. And really, from what you're saying, you can marry the two and create like something really beautiful in terms of raising your children to be entrepreneurial and things like that. Can you share a little bit about what that looks like in terms of creating like this space around you to inspire that entrepreneurial bug in your home for your children? Because I know you have 5 boys, and they've got some, I won't tell the story for you, but you can share with us a little bit about that.
Well, I just know that, like I said, I would take them with me. And then when I wrote my book and I still had youngsters, they would be at my book table and they would be interacting with people and they would be selling my book and talking, and they'd be cheering me on when I spoke at conferences, and they were always with us. We bought an RV just to take them with us to do that. But my oldest son, when he was 7, and I was just always dreamed that we could have more, that we could create more, that there was something in that child that was a dynamic DNA beyond what I could imagine, hope, think, picture in my mind. And I just spoke that over these sons all literally daily, right? And my 7-year-old, he was just so capable. If the vacuum cleaner came in 50 pieces in a box, he was the one that put it together for me, right? Whatever it was. So we made him a little flyer and he walked around door to door, and it was safe in our neighborhood at that time to do that. This time I'd probably go with him or put it online or something anyway. But at that time, he had his little flyer. He's a homeschooler. He's he was like a straight A student and all this. And he began to get little jobs. Do you know that business is feeding families to this day? And he's in his late 30s. Okay. This just snowballed and snowballed. He began to learn how to manage people, how to manage, because first of all, he had to manage his own life and his schedule and be there on time. And we did that really with all the boys. As soon as they could walk, they could work. Okay. And so I had my team, first of all, around the house, and my kids did all the work. They did the grocery shopping, they did the vacuuming, they cleaned the toilets, and you're equipping them. You're not burdening them. I think so many of us mamas want to make life so happy for our children. And we're a very happy household. I'm a party waiting to happen, but I just knew that if I bypassed helping them build that muscle, that tenacity, that endurance, that perseverance by working hard at home in the brotherhood for mom and dad, for our ministry, for my job, and then getting them their own jobs to pay for their desires and wants. We didn't do allowances. We didn't do that. We gave them a stipend based on their involvement in the home, of all the housework, all the things they did. And they had to manage that and pay for their things. But if they wanted, like, beyond the socks and the underwear and the haircut, they had to create wealth. And so they were very motivated. A man is driven by his hunger. If they wanted the Nike shoes, they had to buy the Nike shoes with money they created. So it was a whole management system. But that's the beauty of home education, is you don't have little boxes you have to fit in all day. We were free. We were free of a system. We were free of putting our kids in chains at school desks where they were just, I think my kids would have just wanted to break windows and get out of there. They were free. They could wake up super early, get their curriculum out of the way, and climb trees and play music. And therefore, I mean, our sons are all entrepreneurs. Some of them were signed with Sony and created their own videos that Sony bought from them, their own music that plays on Spotify to this day. If you were walking around at the mall, you would hear their music. Our other son now, he's a coach, entrepreneur. As I said, he runs the contracting business. My other son is a salesman. He's trained himself. Homeschooling gave that environment for that freedom. So planting that seed in their hearts, because when they go to the neighbor and they bring back money, that starts something wonderful. And then when they get too many jobs and they have to hire a friend, they're now managing, right? And so that's an incremental snowball effect. They cooked our food, they did laundry, they walked the dog. They'd go mow the lawns for people whose kids were sitting on the couch playing Xbox. I mean, take note, mama, you are not abusing your child to train them to be hard workers. The word of God says that in all toil, there is profit. There is profit. You are building character. You're getting them ready to stay married. You're getting them ready to give hope to the hopeless and create jobs for other families. So yes, you can do this. You can absolutely do this. Just think differently. And perhaps you need to adjust your business. Like I said, there's a time and a season for everything. And I want it all, but I couldn't have it all at once. There had to be increments of time. So maybe you can't do the 7-figure business thing this year because you lose your kids, you lose your mind, you lose your marriage. No, don't do that. Okay, let's pause. Let's reevaluate, see what we can outsource, see what we can handle. What's our fire sauce? What are we great at? How can our kids be involved? We can make this thing work. But if you can't, and it's not working, I would caution you, there is nothing more important than being my age and having your kids be your best friends. And now my kids are coaching me. My kids are working with me. My kids are attending masterminds with me. My kids are selling my book. My kids are, so you might have to die to some things for a while so that you can live to greater things beyond. But I was always running something. I was always selling something. I was always creating something. So I couldn't sit on the bench. That's not what I'm saying. You've got to be true to who God made you to be, but take your kids with you.
I love that. Now, for those of us, now I homeschool as well, but not everyone can do that. And not everyone wants to do that. And honestly, not everyone should do that. It really is a calling for some of us, right? So what about people who don't have the benefit of having more time during their day because their kids are home, but they do want to encourage that entrepreneurial spirit in them, and they do want to be able to help them kind of cultivate that idea that you can do something like this without it interfering with the family too much?
Well, what I love is that God is a father who cares about where you're at. And you know what? What I found is if we just do what we can with the little that we have, it grows. And so maybe you drop your kid off at 8 and pick him up at 3. Then in between those times, plan ahead. How can you make this work amazing? Because kids come home from school, they're tired, they're checked out, they don't want to talk. You know what I would do is I would get them in the kitchen and make salsa together and talk and play some music, and don't even talk. Okay. Just let them and before you know it, they're going to be talking. Okay. And then think, mama, what is like the spark in that child? Is it music? Is it reading? Is it organizing? See how you can tap into that spark, and how could we help him create something? When I was a girl, I love crafts. So my parents got me into crocheting lessons. All right. And then I started crocheting ponchos and I sold them at my public school. And the principal was like so proud of me. And it's like, as that happens, your child and you will bond in a new way. It's amazing. And that little enterprise, you never know. My son's little weeding, shoveling, sweeping enterprise is like a multiple 6-figure business now. All right. And we are tight, because what you don't want to happen is that you pick them up and then you drop them off at home and you go back into your computer land. Make sure you're tough on yourself. You turn off that phone, you turn off that laptop, and you dedicate that time from the time you bring them home to the time you guys are having dinner, and through dinner, that there's no bells going off. There's no whistles going off. There's no emergencies. And typically we can make that happen. But that's what I would say. Tap into them and then look ahead to the weekend, how you can be together and build together. But there is so much space that you can help your child. Maybe your child's a genius and they could help somebody edit their articles or their essays, or ask God. He's a creator and he's going to give you creative ideas. And that's where I would start, is with what I have in my hands. I mean, that's what the Lord said to Moses. What's in your hand? Because we all want to say, I don't have enough. What did he say to the widow with the little bit of oil and a little bit of flour? She was a single mom and her and her son were going to die. And Elijah came over and said, nope, let's use what you have. It's going to turn into more, and what did Jesus say to the little boy with the bag with the fish and the bread that was enough to feed one? Can I just have that and multiply that? And so, and it multiplied to feed 5,000, I think one time 12,000, maybe, don't quote me. I'm not a theologian, but I just remember the principle. Use what's in your hand, mama, because there's something powerful there. And don't doubt who you are. If I was going to say one thing, mama, remember who you are. You are no ordinary parent. You're an amazing creative soul. If you'd step away from the scroll and not compare yourself to others and ask God to refresh your memory about who you are, there's no one like you in your son or daughter's life. No one that can impact them like you can. They are your sphere, and there's no one that has that secret sauce. There's no one that can do your job better than you. Not grandma, not auntie, not the nanny, not the babysitter. It's you. So don't underestimate your value. Also, the more you spend some time with them, focused on them and their gifts, they're going to love you more. They're going to behave better. They're not going to be, a lot of times, restlessness, loudness is just attention getting maneuvers. Mama, if you remember who you are, don't let your identity be stolen, and you impart and invest in that child, be an invested parent, you're going to see that reward. There's going to be more peace and joy. There's going to be sweeter relationships among the siblings, because you can get them involved in this little enterprise too. And don't forget who your child is. There's such genius in your child. Don't forget, don't look away. Don't look at your phone all the time. That's such a temptation for me as well. Put that phone down. Even my granddaughter will say, Nanny, put your phone down. And I just feel like, oh Lord, I need to put my phone down. Look at those eyes and remember who you are. I mean, there's 8 million forward swimming sperm that could have made another baby, but it made your little Joshua or Jacob or Sally or Abigail or Emily or whoever you've got in your home. That's a powerful, you won the lottery with that kid. So don't forget that. Okay. And don't forget, you have a giant God to help you. So I hope that helped.
That. Absolutely. I love that, Denise. You were so funny. I just love that. What, 8 million sperm?
Yes. Forward swimming sperm. I'm not even kidding. Like, we're 1 in 8 million.
I love that. That's hilarious. Okay, so I think you've given some really helpful points in terms of what to do to help encourage that entrepreneurial bent in your child. Any parting words you'd like to share to encourage, moms in terms of raising children to be the entrepreneurs of the future? So.
100%. What I know is that your children and my children are the culture creators of tomorrow. And I've reminded you who you are. I've reminded you who your child is. But remember, you're in a war. And your child is the prize. And everyone has their hands out, wanting to pull them this way and that way. And in the name of education, in the name of building them. For instance, my sons they're very physically active, and my husband was a football like a co-captain, and he always thought, oh, I'd love to have them play football. But every time I checked, it was 7 days a week. It was like a whole subculture. You had to just dive in, and that was going to be their whole life. When at the end of the day, the chances of a child becoming a professional football player, and I'm getting somewhere, but as you're putting all the money into the tap dancing or the ballet or the football or the soccer or the volleyball, just remember 0.078% of all men who ever go for football make it to the big leagues. So be an invested parent in every sense of the word. You're investing in yourself and your business. You're investing in helping your children find their gift, their secret sauce, their specialty. You're invested in getting time with them. Be the invested parent that's going to end up with the what they want at the end of the day. If you're investing in something that really isn't going to pay off, just stand back and don't compare your kid with others. Just say, what do I see as my vision for my child? What do I want to see him as a capable, mature, emotionally intelligent, critically thinking, confident adult with character, who is going to stay the course, who's going to have perseverance and endurance, all those things we talked about. Well, as I see it, we are in a war, no different than Bible days when the babies were going to be killed, or Jesus was going to be killed, or Herod was looking for Jesus, or Pharaoh was going to kill Moses. We are in that same, there is a powerful force that wants to separate you from your child. And I just want to remind you of that. That's why, if you know who you are, you know who your child is, you know you're in a war, and you know you serve a giant God, all that together makes an amazing secret sauce to be a parent who has an impact. Because as we go, Mom, as we sow, we are going to reap, and we're going to watch our children create the culture that we're going to live in. Just connect the dots to anything you see going out there in these tumultuous times. If you connect the dots back, who parented that legislature? Who parented that president or that vice president or that mayor or that governor? Who parented them? And what is in that recipe that they used? So make sure you've got a recipe that the recipe you're making is the cake you want to turn out, if you get what I'm saying. Because I think so many times we can be impacted by, well, the shoulds and the musts and the coulds and the child who needs all the dress and the makeup and the sports trophies. But at the end of the day, you're building something. You're building their DNA. You're creating a recipe of a child. And I just want you to look at your ingredients, make sure what your inputs are in that child's life, because mark my words, you will reap what you sow. You may have 8-figure football player, but will you have a man who can stand the test of time and have the character he needs? You know, my kids were signed with Sony. They were extremely gifted. And people would say, aren't you so proud? And I said, no, I'm scared to death. And I'm on my knees, because the last thing I want is for my child to become pop star of the century and crash and burn in his personal life, which we've seen over and over and over. So just look at your recipe, look at your ingredients, look at the outcome that you want to have. I wasn't aiming to build rock stars in the music sense. I wasn't aiming to build 7-figure coaches, but if you sow the right seeds from the word of God, and as a woman of God, as a woman of character and integrity, you're going to raise rock stars, and in every sense of the word, if you know what I'm saying. So just don't let this moment pass. It goes so fast. It goes so fast. We're like, where did the years go? It happens so fast. In the twinkling of an eye. Seize the day, mama. Seize the day with that little one, whether he's 3 months, 5 years, 12, 18. I'm parenting all the time. I thought at 18 I was done. Heck no. So much of the most important parenting I've done is with my children as adults. Now they come to me and ask for also business advice, marriage advice, parenting advice. It's a beautiful thing. So don't miss your moment to really connect emotionally with your child. And I think entrepreneurialism is a fabulous way to be able to do that, Kelly. It's exciting. It's fun. And you know what? You're going to champion something for your child that you aren't depending on a system. You aren't waiting for another stimulus payment. You're not living in lack and waiting for luck. You, mama, are pounding it out, and you got your machete and you're knocking down the weeds and you're pounding on doors. I know what it's like. I'm an entrepreneur. You're crying behind the scenes. You're crying in your coffee, and your kids see all that and they sit back and go, I want to be like that. You'll be their hero. And then they'll want to emulate what you are. So just know that you're being watched, you're being followed, you're modeling and mentoring every day of the week. And it's going to turn out well if you just remember who they are, remember who you are, remember who God is, and remember you're in a war for the soul of that child, and you're going to win. You can't not win. God is on your side as you're a devoted parent. So
that was wonderful.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure and a privilege, Kelly.